I get it. You feel like shit and the world is fucked up. And no, it is not just because of capitalism, existential dread, or the fact that humans are the only species clueless enough to ask, what's the meaning of life? While simultaneously destroying our only home, the very planet that we live on. Modern life feels like this endless to-do list with no prize at the end, a never-ending terms and conditions agreement that you actually never read. You're a walking trauma response in a human suit, running on outdated mental software, desperately trying to find happiness and meaning, but in all the wrong places. And your brain is basically like this anxious raccoon making life decisions. And consider this. You probably have no clue who you actually are. You probably know your phone better than yourself. You think you have free will, that your thoughts, opinions are actually yours. But almost everything that you believe about yourself, others, and the world is completely wrong. And as if that's not enough, you're also stuck in a looping narrative, like a glitch in the system, endlessly regurgitating your invented story about who you are, what you've been through, what people have done to you, and what the world is like. And you actually believe it. Meanwhile, a cloud doesn't look at another cloud thinking, oh my God, I want that shape. Why do I not have that shape? It doesn't compare itself. Wonder if it's drifting in the right direction or spiral into some existential dread when it starts to sort of dissolve. It just is. A tree. It doesn't ask for permission to grow. It doesn't shrink itself to make other trees more comfortable. It doesn't waste time worrying if its branches are shaped in a funny way, or if its roots are deep enough to be considered successful. Cats, they don't chase success. They don't seek validation, and they contribute nothing really, except their presence. And somehow that's enough, and we accept that. While you're out there overthinking everything, you doubt yourself, you stress about emails like your life depends on it. A wolf doesn't need therapy to learn how to set boundaries. A horse, it doesn't hold a grudge just because another horse looked at it in a funny way. A dog does not discriminate based on color, size, pedigree, or type of breed. Animals don't scroll for validation, overanalyze social interactions, or lie awake at night replaying something awkward that they did like 5 years ago. They don't obsess over past mistakes or spiral into anxiety about what might happen tomorrow. When an antelope gets chased by a lion, it runs. If it gets caught and manages to escape, it shakes off the stress. It doesn't get stuck in a trauma response for years, reliving the moment over and over, experiencing behavioral, cognitive, and physical symptoms like us humans do. It doesn't lose sleep over what could have happened or develop anxiety about what the future holds. Humans and the animals that they control are the only creatures on Earth that have lost their connection to nature, their instincts, their sanity. No other species live in constant existential dread, fights itself in its own mind, or holds on to past pain like it's some prized possession. No other species spends its entire existence trying to be something else other than what it already is. So if you feel lost, disconnected, or like something is seriously wrong, it's not because you're broken. It's because you were never allowed to or never encouraged to be your authentic self, but conditioned to fit in, to be useful. And you probably were never taught how to heal, only how to cope. You are carrying a very heavy backpack of every emotional wound that you have not consciously healed. Childhood trauma, ancestral, communal, collective, cognitive, acute, developmental trauma. Every emotional scar that you've been too afraid to look at. Living with unhealed emotional trauma, it means living with a cocktail, a toxic cocktail of stress hormones that affect how you think, feel, and act. And of course, you feel like something is missing. But it's not because you lack something. It is because you've been conditioned to ignore what's already here. You were taught to put the lid on, to pretend it's fine, to take substances to numb the pain, or to keep yourself so busy, so productive that you don't have time to be still, to feel, to be present, and actually face your pain. The sad part is that when you realize that you were never meant to find yourself, you were never meant to be happy, peaceful, and free. You were meant to consume, to be a good worker, to comply, to supply, but never to question, not to investigate. You were not made to think for yourself. And that's because traumatized people who don't know who they are so much easier to control. And that's exactly how the system keeps running. Traumatized, narcissistic, and psychopathic individuals with lots of money and power who totally lack empathy and the ability to self-reflect, control other traumatized people that are just not as rich and powerful as they are. You can't quench your thirst with a mirage, and yet you spend your whole life chasing it, believing that happiness, freedom, peace are out there somewhere. There's one more achievement, one more relationship, one more purchase, one more right decision away. But the closer you get, the further it moves. And that's because it was never real to begin with. Your ego, your full sense of self, can never be enlightened. It's built to survive, to calculate, analyze, categorize, making sense out of things. Not to wake up, not to feel love, connection, intimacy, or empathy. That's the heart's job. You cannot be authentic while carrying the heavy weight of unhealed trauma. You cannot be free while trapped in your own mind. And you cannot know your true essence while you so desperately cling on to the story of who you think you are. You spend your whole life trying to fix yourself, not realizing that the version of you that's so-called broken isn't even you. Because healing, it isn't about adding something new. It's more about removing the layers of what was never yours to carry. You don't need to find yourself. You need to strip away everything that's not you. Every belief, expectation, and story that was planted in your mind before you even had a chance to question it. And that starts with understanding how trauma has shaped you, how it has rewired your thoughts, emotions, and body to keep you stuck in survival mode. Because until you heal, you will mistake survival for personality. You will think anxiety is just who you are. You will think that your people-pleasing is just you being nice. And you will think fear of failure is just being responsible. But none of that is you. It's just your trauma speaking. And if you don't recognize it, you will spend your entire life trying to fix a false self while the real you remains buried underneath. This is why self-knowledge is everything. Not the self you were told to be. Not the self you performed to fit in. The self that existed before the world told you who and what to be. And to meet that self, you don't need another strategy. You don't need another productivity hack, another success plan. You need to stop running. Stop chasing. You need to stop doing and start being. You weren't born lost. You weren't born disconnected. You came into the world as pure presence, pure beingness. Your essence, without labels, without narratives, without stories and strategies. But then the programming began. Your parents, family, teachers, and society told you who you were. They gave you a name, a nationality, a gender identity, a personality. They told you what was good and bad, what was acceptable and unacceptable. And slowly, layer by layer, you became a character in their script. You learned to be the good child, the smart one, the funny one, the responsible one, or maybe the troublemaker, the difficult one, the failure. And then life happened. Trauma, pain, betrayal, shame. Every moment of rejection, abandonment, or loss added another layer to your identity, to your story. And now you don't know where you begin and the programming ends. Now you think that you are your labels. You think you are your thoughts. You think you are your trauma, what happened to you. But that's not who you really are. You are what's left when you strip away everything. And healing, it isn't about becoming someone new. It is about shedding the layers of conditioning, limiting beliefs, and unhealthy coping mechanisms to reveal your true self. Imagine your mind as a glass of water. If the water is murky and filled with toxins, no amount of sugar will purify it. You don't fix dirty water by adding sweetness. You cleanse it by filtering out what doesn't belong. That's what trauma healing is. It's not about adding affirmations, strategies, or coping mechanisms. It is about recognizing and removing the blocks, the conditioning, the false identities that keep you stuck. Or imagine an infected wound. You can put makeup over it. You can wear better clothes. You can distract yourself with work, with relationships. But underneath, the infection is still there, spreading, festering, and eventually it reaches the point where it poisons everything. That's what happens when we ignore trauma. No amount of success, self-improvement, or achievement will heal a wound that you refuse to look at. Healing only begins when you clean the wound, when you bring your pain into the light, when you stop numbing, when you stop running, when you sit with what is real. Because trauma doesn't just automatically go away with time. It sleeps or festers. It waits for the right trigger to wake up. A breakup, a failure, an unexpected loss, and suddenly you're not reacting to the present moment, you are reacting to every wound that was never healed. This is why presence is everything. Because healing isn't found in the past. Healing isn't found in the future. Healing happens only here and now. For your entire life, you've been told that the solution is to fix yourself, that you need to do more, learn more, achieve more, become more. But the truth, you don't need to add anything. You need to remove what isn't you. Because underneath all the conditioning, all the stories, all the wounds, you are already whole. But you won't find yourself by searching outward. You won't find healing by trying to fix what was never broken. The only way out of the illusion is to stop running, to stop numbing, to stop overanalyzing, to stop chasing, to sit with yourself, to be present. Because the you that you are looking for isn't in the past. It isn't in the future. It isn't hidden in some achievement, some relationship, some final answer. It is here, now, and it has been waiting for you this whole time. I invite you to join my 16-week holistic trauma healing program, now offered on a pay what you can, when you can basis. You will find the link in the description. Thank you for watching. May you be happy, peaceful, and free.